Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about whether you should optimize your business for ROAS or growth. If you like those videos, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel to see more awesome content on e-commerce growth and scaling. So this is the question that I get a lot. Should I optimize for ROAS or should I make my business grow as fast as I can? What are the benefits and what are the pros and cons of each of those approaches? And I wanted to talk about one thing here. So first of all, there's no one size fits all solution. And I talk about this a lot, but it really depends on what your objectives are with your business. So if you're running a dropshipping business, if it's your first business, if the primarily goal of your business is cash flow, then in this case you should optimize for high ROAS and for profitability, because it is, and I'm speaking from experience, it is so much more difficult. It is so much more difficult to manage high operations business, whatever business it really is. If it's a service business, if it's an e-commerce business, it is so much more difficult to manage a business with a large volume of sales. And so you want to make sure that, so it's much more preferable to actually have a business where you're making a lot of profit per sale, when you have more profit and fewer sales, right? Because of all the issues with the logistics, with the customer support burden, and everything you need to manage on the operational side of the business. Also, if you grow big, you're gonna have more things to take care of from the legal perspective. You're entering, more countries, and you need to take care of the VAT regulations in different countries and so on. So if your primary goal of your business is to have cash flows, to have profit, then you optimize for high ROAS versus optimizing for growth, right? Now, there are a few exceptions to that. So for example, if you still want to optimize for profitability, but your business is not a dropshipping business, but instead you're working with manufacturers, and you can exploit some economies of scale if you have a certain volume of order, and then your prices can go down. So because of that, your margins will grow higher, and as a result, you'll profit more. So this is the one exception where you might want to optimize for growth while compromising a ROAS a little bit, at least in the short term. Now, it's a totally different story if you're running a business where you want to optimize the value of your asset. If you're aiming at an exit strategy, you want to sell your business down the line for a high multiple. In this case, sometimes bigger businesses would be more valuable because of the number of assets that they have and because of the size of the customer list. But here's a few things you need to consider. If you're running a dropshipping business, the main reason that people buy dropshipping businesses is actually for cash flow purposes, right? So people who wanna kind of so there are very few business owners who would want to buy a dropshipping business from a pure asset standpoint, because in terms of assets, the only assets you really have is the marketing channel and the operations. So unless your buyer is buying for strategic reasons, where, for example, they have a manufacturing company in your space and they just want to buy this marketing machine that you've built, and they're going to integrate it with their operations side to maximize the margins and so on. In this case, this kind of buyer might want to buy an asset that's large enough, that has a large enough customer base, and think about profitability as a secondary priority. In any other case, there are a lot of buyers who are buying purely on the profit basis, right? So their kind of valuation of your business is going to be based on your EBITDA, right? So purely. How much profit you're generating, and as a multiple of that pre-tax and so on. So in this case, you wanna, if you're thinking about selling the business, think about what kind of reasons, why would people buy your business, and what kind of buyers you wanna attract mostly, right? If you wanna attract cash flow buyers, then optimize for profitability. If you wanna buy kind of strategic buyers, and you're building your assets in that business around this ideal purchase profile of a potential buyer, then you can optimize for growth instead. Now, what I want to show you as well is how do you make those decisions about profitability consciously, because a lot of people are struggling with this thing. So they are primarily focused on revenue and ROAS, and they only see their kind of net profit metrics at the end of the month. And this is really, this can be debilitating for the business, especially if you're working with a marketing team and you need to give them directions and targets for ROAS and so on. You really want to make sure that your marketing team is perfectly in sync with you as a business owner. You want to make sure that you switch your company from revenue focused to a profit focused company. So I'm going to show you how you can increase the visibility of the actual profit that your campaigns are producing for your media buyers, for your marketing team, so that you guys can get in perfect sync and you can allow your team to properly realize your business objectives.
Hello, and as promised, I'm gonna go through the sheet that I use to help myself and my team stay in sync about how we can scale profitably, no matter what your goals are, whether you want to optimize for growth or whether you want to optimize for maximum profitability. You need to really get clear about your numbers and look beyond just the P&L that you're seeing at the end of the month from your accountant or from your sheets. You need to be able to really understand what are the profitable pathways to growth, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. So things that you need to take into account to calculate your net profit. So this is essentially let me show you the outcome that we want to have. So what we want to get is this kind of table where, depending on different combinations of return on the ad spend and the monthly and daily ad spend, you're gonna see as an output the net profit that your business is gonna make at the end of the month, including your fixed costs and so on, right? So because of that, you're gonna see what kind of different combinations are gonna be the best for you to grow, right? So if you want to optimize for growth, maybe you're gonna be fine with just keeping the minimum ROAS and scaling as fast as you can. And if you want to optimize for profit, maybe you're gonna go more along this side, right? So lower spend, but greater ROAS, right? So here's the way this table works. You put your fixed cost. Fixed cost is going to be everything that, your staff and salary, your tools costs, your subscriptions, your customer support staff, your VAs. If you have any kind of, if you're not drop shipping, if you have a manufacturing plant, it's going to be all the costs associated with that are not kind of directly calculated into your cost of goods sold. Then we're gonna have the gross margin. So the one problem that I see when e-commerce people manage their business, especially if they're having their own stock and they purchase that stock in bulk, is that one mistake that they make is they factor in into their P&L, the stock that they've purchased, and then they don't kind of count, they don't attribute only the stock that they've actually sold in a particular month to that particular month, and then kind of transferring the cost. So this is essentially the difference between what accountants call the accrual and cash flow based accounting, and you need to have both in your e-commerce business. So you want to be able to get to the point where you can assess the cost of goods sold of your products, right? So in other words, on an average cart, on an average order value, what is your real cost, right? So what's going to factor in that? That's going to be your shipping costs, right? So on an average order, your customer is going to pay for shipping only once, but they're going to have probably multiple products, or it's going to be, your average is going to be something like 1.4 or whatever, depending on how many products people buy. And how do you actually calculate that? So the math behind it is probably a little bit above what we need. So the bottom line is that you want to get to the point where you can see the gross margin on your average cart value, right? So if you want to dive into details, we've also got a more advanced version of this where we go through you take the Shopify export order of the last 90 or last 30 days, and you kind of look at your top products that you have. You see what's the relative contribution of those products. You see what it actually costs you to to sell those products, to produce them. Then you include the shipping, and then you end up with the net profits on average order value, right, and your margin. So it's a little bit more complicated than this, but you need to do your math on the basis of your Shopify order export, right? So now let's go back to the basic template. It's so we're gonna input the AOV. We're gonna input this is actually calculated just from the average order value multiplied times gross margin. Another things you need to factor in is gonna be the organic sales. So if you're just running a single channel Facebook ads, you might notice that your Shopify revenue is actually more than what your Facebook Ads Manager is telling you, right? And there are a lot of different reasons for that. One is, people using multiple devices when purchasing, so they, look at your ad on one device and then they buy on their computer, for example. It's people referring their friends, it's people, like coming, telling people about their brand and people coming back from direct search, or it's people using some kind of ad blocking tools and so on, right? So how to calculate that? You take a difference between your Shopify revenue and your Facebook ads revenue, and then you divide that by the Facebook ads revenue, and you're gonna add that on top of what your ads are gonna tell you. Then if you're paying any sales tax or VAT on your products, you have a space to factor that in. If you're using any discount in your ads, and you also want to factor that in. So then if you make your calculations right, your outcome is gonna be this table. And as I mentioned, it's gonna tell you the way that you want to grow. So sometimes you'll find that it might be very difficult for you to maintain very high ROAS at increased spend, right? So you kind of have to assess what's possible for your particular case. Is it gonna be easier to just keep scaling at, for example, around the 2x ROAS versus, like on a 3.5 ROAS, right? So this table, you can see that you'll make roughly the same amount of profit at different levels of spend, and you can kind of make your decisions on like how you want to grow, if you want to maximize your profit or if you want to maximize your growth. Also, what this sheet has is another few things. So in order to scale, you need to, especially if you're managing the production or if you need to forecast some inventory, if you're working with dropshipping agents and so on, this table is going to be super useful for you. So you set your targets, right, based on your current revenue, your target revenue, how fast you want to get to that target, the effective ROAS. So it's essentially, it's not your Facebook ROAS, it's your Shopify versus the Facebook spend, right? Then your average order value from Shopify. And if you're running a factory, then you want to see how many orders one person can fulfill in a day. So that it's going to help you establish how many staff you need to hire, right? So then this part is essentially translating your targets and your current volume into the number of orders per day, number of orders per week, so that you can run your predictions. And also, it's going to tell you the based on your targets and the time you want to take to reach that target. It's going to tell you how fast you need to grow on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. And then this table is going to translate those numbers, your targets, into a weekly scaling plan, right? So your effective ROAS might change, or if you're expecting it to drop over time, then you might wanna adjust that variable. For example, if you want to scale it to like 500, and you'll see how that's gonna translate into your revenue and the number of orders. Then you've got your scaling planner. So once you've got the targets and we know how much we need to be spending on a weekly basis, then you translate that into your campaign planner, right? So you'll see that, okay, if I'm scaling my campaigns by, for example, 15% daily, assuming that they're profitable, this is how I want to plan my budgets across the week. And also you'll see how you can, you'll see, for example, how those changes increases by 15% are influencing your total daily budgets, and you'll see how many new campaigns you need to launch to reach your target weekly spend. Right here, right? So this we call it the max total weekly spend, because your campaigns performance of individual campaigns might be volatile. So maybe on some days you're not gonna want to scale them. On some days maybe you even want to pause them. So, but this tool is pretty effective at like keeping your team accountable and really meeting, working from your targets down into the action items on a daily basis, right? So this, hopefully, after you have this table, after you've put your numbers, how fast, what pathway you want to take to growth, whether you want to optimize for profit or for growth. Then you'll see what kind of return on the ad spend and spend targets you want to reach. Based on that, based on your targets, you wanna understand what is your weekly spend gonna be in order to meet those targets. And based on that, you're gonna have your budget planner. Of course, you need to factor in a lot of other factors, such as how many creatives you're gonna test to kind of minimize the risk. Maybe you want to have some, you want to launch some new channels when you're scaling and so on. Right. So hopefully this was helpful to you, and you're gonna get the copy of this document along with another explanation video in below this video. So thanks a lot.